Hi, everybody.
Hi,
We
it's
are in our first episode of this conversation podcast that we want to have with a more regularity. Thank you, Vero.
yes. So we are starting our first episode. We are local experts that live in Guanacaste. We are currently in Playa del Coco, and we each have our personal story that brought us here, and we're gonna share with you. And we wanted to make a set of conversations for anyone interested out there on what it is like to live in this part of the world. Each one of
Yeah,
us has a different story that we're going to share, and what exactly brought us here and what kept us still living here.
yeah. After almost 4 years, right?
Yes, I think we both moved to this
I
area
think
around the same time.
when did you move? When did you guys move?
We moved at the end of 2021.
Okay, yeah, I moved in September 2021.
Okay,
August, September, I remember, but yeah.
so pretty
So
much around the same
yeah,
time.
pretty much around the same time. And well, so I said you're Vero, like Veronica. Like, tell me
Yes.
more about like why did you move to Coco? Like, who are you?
Oh, I have a very long story, spanning over the last 10 years of moving from different place to different place across the world. However, around 4 years ago, my now husband and I decided to move to this area during COVID. I was working remotely at the time, and he was told that he can work remotely.
Hmm.
And when he got here, his job told him that he actually couldn't. And so he ended up being unemployed randomly when we first got here. That, but that didn't really deter us. We were interested and curious into finding out more about this area, and Costa Rica just seemed like a great place. We had just spent the whole winter locked in Canada. We were living in Mississauga, which is in the Toronto area in Canada, excuse me. And we wanted to check out this part of the world. At least we thought that if we have to spend another lockdown during the winter, we can. He told me great things, and again, my intuition was telling me, oh, it turned off again. Okay, I'll just keep doing it, and it is. We're gonna have to do it like that. Okay.
So
Until
do you think
guys.
it's good? It's when it's off. It's because it's literally off.
Yeah, it turns off. Maybe there's like a timer, but I can't figure out the settings right
Okay.
now. So my intuition was telling me that this is the area where we're gonna end up living. I remember looking at the map and telling him we're gonna live in this area. I have no idea why. I didn't know anything about Costa Rica. And to be honest, so we were trying to do some research, but I feel like videos like this are just not available. And there's so much interest in
Hmm.
moving to this part of the world, yet there's so little information out there. So I thought that this is through these conversations, we can fill the gap as well for anyone curious and interested. And Coco was also just a random happening. We came with another friend of my husband's, who also was interested in maybe checking out the area and seeing what's up here. And he booked the Airbnb, and he found an Airbnb for a month for us to just kind of like come and see what's going on here in Coco. At first, actually, funny enough, he told us that we were going to be in Hermosa, which is just across the hill from here. And for the longest time, I thought that that's where we were going. And then he said, never mind, actually, it's in a town called Coco. And well, funny enough, the Airbnb where we ended up renting for the first month is on the street behind where we currently live and bought a place. And well, maybe we can venture into the next topic because actually introduce a little bit more about Santi, because Santi was my neighbor when we first bought our house. He was our next door neighbor. And then afterwards, again, ironically or funny enough, he ended up living in the street behind in
Yeah.
the same complex where we had our Airbnb when we first moved. So we've been neighbors
Yeah.
directly and indirectly. And
For a long period
so
of
for
time,
since
really.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, we moved
we,
here.
we, we met at a birthday party in December on 2021. I remember because there was this nice party. Like I feel that one very nice thing about Coco or Guanacaste area is that every for me every day was an adventure. Like the first couple of years that I was here, I stumbled at so many different options of things to do, right? Like I remember I was like, I need to do my laundry, or I want to go to this place, like check out this new place, like this party, like meeting new people. And there's always so many things to do. And I remember there was this birthday party of a now good friend of mine that I actually was invited, that I didn't know anybody, and I ended up meeting you and Louis, your husband, and then we were like neighbors, and yeah, it's been very. I think that we've been destined to, keep having this conversation. So I'm very glad that we are doing it right now in front of camera, because we share this passion about like talking more about Guanacaste and so on. But yeah, it's so interesting, like what you were saying about there was no information for you like to actually make an informed decision, and I think that that was almost 4 years ago, and it's no different from right now. Like there is little to no information about how it's actually to leave, right? And with the international market being more aggressive and more people coming, um, there is a lot of information that needs to be put out there for people to make more informed decisions now that the market is even more complex than it used to be. But
Yes.
for me, it was no different from you in terms of I didn't know Guanacaste. I hadn't been to Coco and this in my entire life before. Even if I am, yeah, born and raised Costa Rica, and I was in, uh, my family never um, vacated in Guanacaste. So the first time that I ever came to Guanacaste was when I moved to
Right.
this
Same
place. So
thing.
it's like,
Yeah.
I remember I was at that time, yes, I was having a like an online job at an advertising agency, and I had the opportunity to be wherever I wanted to be, and the company had this work from anywhere policy, and I had a friend from my parents' town, and we were discussing, like, hey, where. I was like, I want to go to Santa Teresa. Actually, we were just discussing this before, because I have this inclination for water sports, and I wanted to master myself into surf. That's
Okay.
how I envisioned myself, like becoming a surfer. And Santa Teresa is very well known for this, surf and the waves.
Wait.
Um, Oh,
Say that Santa Teresa is famous for. I
yeah.
knew it's gonna answer. Good. Yeah. Okay. Say it again. Santa Teresa is.
Yeah, Santa Teresa is very well known for the surf culture, and like it has very good waves. And I had taken some classes in college. I had a friend from Norway. He moved into Costa Rica just for the surf, and so I kind of dwell into this world. And so it was pandemic. I mean, it was the recovery in 2021, and I wanted to move firstly to Santa Teresa, because I had the opportunity to just work from anywhere, and yeah, and so I talked to this friend from my parents' town, on he was like, yeah, I'm down to going to the beach, and I was like, at the beginning, I I'm a very solo person. I always have lived in a more kind of autonomous life. I, yeah, traveled the world, and I've done a lot of different things, and I love to be on my own. But I feel that this, oddly enough, it was the first time that I would move out of the San Jose or the greater metropolitan area in Costa Rica into the coast, and I feel that it would be nice to be with another person. So we ended up coming to Coco. But actually, the criteria was that we could have a good internet connection, because in Santa Teresa there's like this. It's still a bit more remote, and the roads are like a bit more complicated, and the access is more complicated. And yeah, we ended up coming to Coco, and it was the first time ever that I arrived here, and I was enthralled. Like the vibe, the slowly lifestyle at that moment. It was the last semester of 2021. It's still recovering from the pandemic. real estate was very affordable at the moment. I remember because yeah, people were not living here basically, so there were a lot of empty places. So we rented a place um, at this neighborhood, and then we kind of just grinded into the lifestyle of living here, right? And I remember that at some point, yeah, I started to go to the gym and like getting to know a lot of people, attending parties and meeting people from all around the world, and that was very interesting, though.
Oh,
Mm.
did it just turn off? Like, don't tell me it still told me that there's like no memory. Ah, what the it's doing something weird. Okay. The battery is like, okay, let's just keep going.
I was so we started living here, and from one moment to the other, I was really living a very compelling life, meeting a lot of people, getting to understand Guanacaste from a different lens. Because I think that even for me, as I said, being a Costa Rican, but being surrounded by so many people from so many different countries and contexts and backgrounds and ways of life was very enriching. Was a very enriching experience, and it has been an enriching experience. And so I was, so I became, I became I would say that the way that I want to describe this is that Coco represented an opportunity for me to understand myself in different and with a different lens that I had never experienced before in Costa Rica. I feel that I was living in another country, but I was not, and this is very interesting topic because um, Guanacaste is being transformed into a global area. And I think that we don't speak about this enough about how important is the topic of
Mhm.
internationalization of
Yes.
Guanacaste and
Yes.
how enriching this could be if we use the right mechanisms and tools to sort of channel this energy of international experience and the international voices into the common good and development of this region. So yeah, I just wanted to end up this part of my adventure because I had been during the COVID time actually studying a in in a business accelerator school in Watson School in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado. At the end, due to the pandemic, we had a shift towards virtual. But then I moved. I was living in Mexico City at that moment during my business program, and I became very curious about entrepreneurship. And I was doing actually taking a degree on entrepreneurial studies while in this program. And when I got into Coco, I started to see things differently from the perspective of an entrepreneur, or if I every time that I speak to somebody, I realize how many people here were so driven and so entrepreneurial. So you were just saying about your now husband being unemployed, and this didn't um, kind of this didn't impede you staying here. Like actually, could probably be like a incentive to maybe try out new things. And I think this is a beautiful playground to try out a lot of our entrepreneurial mindsets. And this is maybe another thing that is common in both of us, like how I came and I was like, maybe this is a place where I could put a start in, like start to use all this knowledge that I gained while at the business school. And you were having all these ideas, and you're with your husband now. um, Tell me more about like how did you identify that you could be not only an observant of this, but a participator, like a participator, or like a yeah, like an active participator on the entrepreneurial uh, world that you could see here happening.
Yeah. So basically, I've, I never had my own business or did anything of that sort. I always worked for a company prior to moving here, and when I moved here, I was still working remotely for a company. It was my first real corporate job, and eventually, as well, I decided to quit, partially because they were also requiring me to go back after some certain time, and after purchasing a property here, and we didn't really have anywhere to go back to unless we wanted to live with our parents in Canada. So that, and then my husband was also unemployed, and he was doing crypto because that was big at the time, and learning on navigating that, and also had
Oh my
earned.
god, I had forgotten that.
Yes, we did that too. So that was something he did at the time, just to kind of taking advantage of what was going on. And I think that's probably how that shaped his entrepreneurial journey as well. Being curious, learning, and taking advantage of the current economic situation and what's hot right now. So eventually, both of us kind of had no stable income, and we really had to learn learn on how we can stay here and create and do something in order to be able to have some sort of an income. And the idea of starting our property management business, which was our first venture here,
Mm.
came with another person. And looking back now, I think it's so curious because at the time that the person was a friend of ours that was also living here, and he besides giving us the idea, I remember talking about it and saying that this is a great opportunity to enter the property management business. And we were also seeing that there was a lot of foreign investment happening. The market was getting really hot after COVID. A lot of people were looking into reinvesting their money here because the economic situation just wasn't as looking as stable anymore in Canada, and as well as the States. And also, I think people were looking for a vacation home to just kind of get away. And Costa Rica was a hot spot, and I think it still is after 4 years. And we after talking to him, we realized that property management is the easiest business that we can start. So we basically just like started getting curious about how we can do that. Speaking to lawyers, we started a corporation. It really did help that we speak Spanish, and I think that's we know plenty of people that live here successfully without speaking Spanish at all. And there's a lot of services that you can receive in English, but I just feel like there's still a barrier to knowledge,
Mm.
acquiring certain types of knowledge when you're not able to talk to the locals in their language, and maybe even a certain level of acceptance. I'm not sure, but we were able to kind of break through that barrier probably because of our understanding in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first business that we got into. We were also discussing at the time getting into real estate, but that just seemed like there was a lot of companies that were already established here, and there's certain barriers to doing that legally. Like you have to be a permanent resident, and we were only in the process of applying for a residency at the time. So it just seemed like though,
So,
yeah.
when you purchased property, you get a foot on the door to become a resident, right? Would you mind giving like more like context on what this entails in terms of getting a permanent residency for a foreigner?
Yes. The so the residency works the following way. You need to invest $150,000 USD or more into buying a property. There's a few different types, but I feel like it's still a little bit it's a gray area. If you are you can apply if you're earning, I think it's $2,000 per month.
Mm-hmm.
as well as to become a resident, and you have a permanent, like a stable job. But that one is a little bit. I think it's a. I'm not so knowledgeable on it. I tried to go that route since I had a job at the time, but we ultimately, after buying property, we decided to apply as inversionista, which is
Investor.
like an
Yeah.
investor. And then there's also the pensionado, which is for retirees
Retire. Hmm.
who are receiving a certain amount. I think maybe 1,500. I have to double check those, but I'm sure that it's $150,000 for if you purchase a property. So after purchasing a property, we had to get certain documents for, showing our purchase, and that's a whole different conversation in
That's
its
a
own.
yeah. That's a very
Applying for residency and the complications and the bureaucracy and even just the lack of information on how to do that. So we had to
hmm.
go through. There was agencies. We went through someone we knew that offered us a discount and to do the process, as they had experience on working at a firm that was handling this sort of documentation previously. And we applied. We got all the documents necessary in order to go through the process. And yeah, once we purchased the property, it got the ball rolling, and it still took, I think, after submitting all the documents, I think it took 1 year for my husband, and there was a delay on my part for some reason, partially because of poor management, I think, with the people that we trusted. I think they just, after he got his, they just kind of, left me hanging. And
Costa Rican culture of like I think sorry
yeah,
maybe it's I just wanted to touch on, you said that there were not enough information about the process, even though it's a very normal process, and I think that I'll be lucky if I find a $150,000 property on the market right now, because it's like a very non like nothing cost this
maybe just studios.
yeah, just little studios
Yeah,
right now, but
yeah.
many properties are above to 200,000 k, etc. But even though there was not enough information, you were saying, and then another aspect is that yeah, it could be something that is welcoming you to come and purchase and become a resident, but you were starting to get familiar with the culture of how people behave in like attorney offices or in public administration, and now you were talking about venturing into starting a company, like starting a corporation, but that means not only doing everything for your own, but hiring people and getting more ample fingerprint into what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, because I wanted to say that by that time that you started your company, I started my company on property management as well, and I think that that is as well another crossroad that we have, that we
In
both
common.
started our company on the same field, and that was, I think that I wanted to talk about this because you're foreigners in common and having this I need to get into the understanding of this whole puzzle. I did it with another national Costa Rican person, and I think that we face the same difficulties and tribulations, but um, that is important to for me to talk about how you were seeing this whole like environment of people just starting things and doing things, and like even if their lack of information was very present, that didn't deter you from starting, right?
No, it couldn't. It did, like, we had no other choice. Because I think, because we felt more comfortable since we did speak Spanish. I think that barrier was, the first barrier was kind of lifted on its own. And then afterwards, it was pure survival in a way, because of course we had the worst case scenarios, that we could always go back home and get our jobs back, or find another job. And we were both professionals. My husband was having he had a shining career with
Hmm.
so many work prospects. People were trying to recruit him all the time for to work for them and as an engineer. And I was just starting out my career, so for me it was a little bit different. After finishing my master's degree, I got my first real corporate job, and I only had maybe like 6 months of experience. But it wasn't the end of the world. We had options. We are educated individuals, so we could definitely have gone back to Canada or moved to the States, and I'm sure that we could have gotten back to having some sort of careers. But we really, I think, over time we realized that we are natural born entrepreneurs. I've always known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur since my early days. I would say even before I was 20. I tried to start my first business in my early 20s. So I've always wanted that for myself, and I think I saw this as an opportunity to get into entrepreneurship once and for all, being almost forced, right? Taken out of my comfort zone. We're in a new country that I know nothing about, and but I loved it, and I wanted to stay here, and we wanted to do something for ourselves. And out of necessity, we had to learn all of all of the steps, and nothing came, I would say, easy. Access to information here is it's definitely very
Challenging.
it's challenging. It's and also it it hurts me to say that, but and it's not just our experience. We have been more protected, but especially foreigners who come here, they will be taken advantage of if the possibility is
Yeah.
there because of lack of information.
Why do you think is that? Like, why do you think? Because I'm totally with you. I have been in this, I would say, like privileged position because I am Costa Rican. I was born and raised here. I sometimes people say, "Oh, are you Costa Rican?" Right? Like that. Beside this whole racial thing that tends to happen in Latin America, I feel that given my background in education, I tend to be more ambiguous into like, "Oh, are you really Costa Rican?" But I've seen like in many instances, people from Costa Rica being more. I'm waiting for this. I've seen people from Costa Rica taking advantage on the situation that the other person, for example, doesn't speak proper Spanish or doesn't understand the legalities of something, and there's a raw like this is like a huge maze that you really need to understand and to walk, and you as a foreigner perhaps like trust like a, even an attorney, like a person that is arguably the person that will help you in the process, and these people let you down. Why do you think because you've lived in so many different countries, you've traveled the world, so you could have an idea of why do you think this is a thing in here? So I have my hypothesis as well.
Okay, so I'm curious to hear yours. I haven't given it much thought. I think that if the opportunity exists to for someone to make more because of your lack of understanding on the subject, it will happen. And I think that's ultimately that is universal, and it's natural for people to hear like compare pricing and think that, and in a way sometimes maybe it you could maybe be just misinformed about you did get a better quality service or you did get a better advice, so you ended up paying for that. But then it's just not human nature to think if you hear that someone else paid something less, then they it's you're comparing apples to pears. So I ultimately, with saying that, I don't want to paint a negative picture of this country, because I think that the so-called being taken advantage of isn't. We're talking, maybe like a couple $100. It's not. There's not like large scale scams going on where they like rob you of all your money or anything like that. It's just that you would end up paying more because you're uninformed, or there are of course like some scammers. Maybe someone promises to build your kitchen. We've heard of that. and you give them, and you don't really know how you're supposed to portion the pay, so you give them like half up front, and they end up like never completing. They demolish your kitchen and they never come back with the rest. So it's not very common, but it does happen, and this is why you need to ultimately be trust the right people. And the one of the reasons why our business has been so successful is because we proved ourselves as trustworthy over the last couple of years, and with that, and we have been recommended by others, for example, real estate agents when we first started, because as trustworthy, because we were proving ourselves to the clients that we were already managing that we are a good company, an honest company. And through that, they now trust the experts that we have tried out and have developed relationships to get certain jobs done and not get ripped off or not have, and we do the best we can, obviously. When it comes to that, when we problem solve, we are the middleman, we negotiate for them. Um, so this is my side of the way that I've seen the situation. I'm curious to see
Yeah, well,
yours.
before I go into my hypothesis or yeah, my thoughts, I just want to talk to stress about the reliability or trustworthiness, because I think this is a very centric topic in everything that we do or talk about in Guanacaste. And I have a one of my former bosses or a board member of the Chamber of Commerce that I ended up working for a board of business owners here in Coco, and they entrusted me the opportunity to create a Chamber of Commerce, which was a very funny adventure. We maybe we'll talk about that in another episode. But um, one of these board members, who's a very successful entrepreneur and business owner of multiple businesses in Guanacaste, he once told me, and I think that this never is gonna. I mean, it's gonna be always in my mind. It's about reliability and trustworthiness, and I think, and he said about the single most important aspect of that the people seeks in employees and in commercial relationships in Guanacaste is this is trustworthiness and reliability, because you really want to have um, a connection with the person that you are maybe exchanging services and products, but it's so important to be reliable. And I think that that is a distinction that you are saying that you had um, for your company, and how important it is to be reliable, and how easy is perhaps like, and that is the funniest part, because this is a like it's an eternal concept, not only millenarial concept, or like it's not only for a couple of thousand years, it's just like a eternal concept about morality in ourselves, to be trustworthy, to be honoring our words, and to be secure that what we are doing is ethical and in response to our moral and our yeah our way of seeing the world. So it's I just wanted to say that yeah, reliability and trustworthiness is so easy to like do. Like if you really are a reliable person, a trustworthy person, you can get so many like good deals and good relationships and commercial opportunities just by being honest. Like it's so easy, right? Like it's so cool. I don't know.
I completely agree with you. Um, Something that we've seen here and through our business is that a lot of people, and I'm not only talking about the locals, the local population, but just in general, universally, anyone that comes here, maybe because of, especially whether they're foreign or whether they're local, everyone is trying to make a living, which is completely understandable. But a universal concept that we've seen is always asking for immediate payback on anything they do, and that's of course maybe that's not just applicable to here. It's probably a universal thing, but it's more so an idea of, okay, what are you gonna pay me, what are you gonna do for me right in this moment, versus maybe giving a little bit extra for the hope that this person will recognize you and the efforts that you do, and you will become in their eyes a trustworthy person that goes above and beyond or is reliable, and then that's how they can get you more business. And these are the relationships that we have created, especially with a lot of people that we work. They've gone the extra mile for us. They're always available, and these are the people that we keep calling back versus anyone that has the mentality of, what are you going to do for me right now? And always, instead of asking for a little bit less, asks for a little bit more without giving more. And we've nurtured a lot of relationship, and that's how we have also become trustworthy ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and have created these the bond, like relationships with people that we really can trust, and now have access to these resources for that we can recommend to anyone that comes to this area. And we can get things done, we can get them done fast, and we can get them done the right way, because
Yeah.
these are things that are not always universal here. There is a mentality of, it will get done when it gets done. And for us as North Americans, when we first moved here, this was, and not just us, our clients as well, when they first move
Mm.
here, they have to adjust that it does take time, but also sometimes, if you're not using the right people, it will take longer than even it should for given the part of the world where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So there's so many things that we can um, keep talking on, but about this idea of why people take advantage of others, as you say, is an universal concept. I think that there are different stereotypes throughout the world, in different areas of the world, perhaps in more um, business oriented areas like the markets in the Arab world where people like bargain a lot, and you get to talk and make your point, and then at the end you get like a good deal or no, etc. But um, I think it's very interesting here because and this is something that will be perhaps as well discussed further in the future. Guanacaste was very different from 50 years ago. Like our this entire geography was by no means what is right now, and it's been over a short period of time. So you end up having what right now is an international and thriving society with people from all around the world with so many different perspectives and capital gains that didn't come from the economic of the region, right? So you were saying that you had this down payment for your place in Canada. That money you used it in Costa Rica. So that was like your savings or the economy that you had as a couple. You created it in another country in another economic system. You transferred it to Costa Rica and you use it to purchase property. So that used to be, and maybe I'll be a little bit academic here into economics and politics, but in our history, Costa Rica it is still a very Central Valley oriented country. Like everything happened through the Central Valley of Costa Rica, where the greater metropolitan area is, where the capital is, San Jose, like the big cities are in this greater metropolitan area. So over the last 500 years, that is sort of the history of the country, everything happened presumably in this region, like in Cartago, Alajuela, San Jose, Heredia, and that's where like the development of economic history started to blossom and to what is right now, right? So over the last 50 years, there was a complete different shift on these dynamics of power. And many people from all around the world started to come to Guanacaste, and they didn't have to go by the rules of the status quo, and the creation of wealth became more independent in this region from what the usual was happening in the Central Valley. So we started to see some differences, and that people from the coastal areas in Costa Rica in general, that in Guanacaste is very normal, had historically been abandoned by the government. Like it's by no it's no secret that the education in the coastal areas have been historically less strict or adapted to different perceptions of learning processes. So you see people from the Central Valley have more perhaps deep understanding of basic concepts than people from the coast, and that transpires into elementary concepts as though critical thinking. We talk and we have both of us employed people from Guanacaste, and it's so hard sometimes to get people to understand what I presume is a basic concept that you would just master by being more critical or independent thinker on the matter, right? So this lack of education from the central government has been really palpable in the way that people behave and operate, and that created a dependency on the state. And Costa Rica has this um, it's a way that we've been developed our state nation over the last centuries, but um, it got to a point where people started to be very dependent on state, so welfare and like just pensions and money, and that was more common in that has been historically more common in the coastal provinces or areas. So you see, for example, when there's national elections or municipality elections, people from the coastal areas, from the coastal territories, tend to have more conservative voting tendencies than people from the Central Valley, because people from the Central Valley, I wouldn't say that they are more liberal, but they are more progressive. So you could see like conservative versus progressive on a very narrow scale. You see the Central Valley behaving completely different from the rest of the country, and you see this dependency from the state, like how the state has created what is called like clientelism. I don't know if that's the right word in English, but how you convert your citizens into clients of the state. So because they need the welfare money, they need the monthly transfer of social support, and that created a mentality of scarcity and dependency on the state in the coastal areas, which hasn't been um, easy to get rid of. So when you have these people that have been historically educated into being dependent on others, and then you have this wealth of investment and new people coming, like new narratives and new faces, new mentalities. Like you come with a complete different mentality from a local business owner, or for a traditional 30 something entrepreneur from Costa Rica, or like with a more like classic mentality, let's say. So and you are on a like a small scale entrepreneur. Like let's imagine that you come in and purchasing hectares of land and doing big development. So you come um, with some universe that has never been pictured in this, because people used to live off the state for so many years and decades. So when people see others coming and just apparently having endless amount of money, and they had been educated into a scarcity system and independency system, your first reaction is to get a little bit of this, right? Like you are coming with a lot of money and I have no money, so I will take your money because it is in my land, and I am from here, and you have no right to come here. So I'm taking, and you are a foreigner, and presumably you are a millionaire. So for you, as you said, like $100 is nothing, or it is, but I am many people in this region have never had a moment in which they were just socialized in concepts as money. Like money, like financial education is very um, basic or elementary here. Concepts like financial autonomy is like something that people never think of because they are accustomed to another sort of education of dependency, and entrepreneurial like mindsets are not um, incentivized here as though in other parts of the country. So I think that this collision of worlds of people that have been historically dependent on the state with a scarcity mentality, with a very limited thinking into what is the most like accomplished aspect of life that you can get towards, and like these people started to be in contact with people that come from every metropolis of the planet. Like you have traveled the world, like you come, and not I'm not talking about you specifically, right? But you have people from all corners of the planet literally coming into Guanacaste with so much knowledge into so many different things, with people that had never, they don't even have a passport, they never like leave the country. And a this is nothing but else but just a reflection of the presence of the state in this region. And um I am not trying to speak ill on people, but rather on the systemic, history that has impacted the education and the critical thinking and the emancipation of people here. And so I'm a very, yeah, critical perhaps person about the state and the role that the state has played in this region, and how it's more easy to witness the differences of mentality in Guanacaste than in the greater metropolitan area. Like it's very different. So people here live with this mentality of scarcity, and they want to take everything they can because they've never seen this in their lives. So they don't know whether they will be able to take it or not again. Like right, and instead of cultivating these relationships that you were saying, like
Yeah, I love this perspective, and I think that we can in future conversations we can talk more about it, and I think it touches a lot on on other hot topics that are happening or that are being talked about in this area, or pretty much every area of Costa Rica where
yeah,
there's people and mostly internationals moving. So we can talk more about
yeah,
that in the future conversation, because that's a whole another topic that we can discuss. I think maybe we can wrap up our conversation with just mentioning some details of why we decided to stay here, besides
yeah.
maybe even work. I can talk a little bit more on my part as a person who comes from Canada, and that works that this area
There's a
offers.
political landscape in Canada.
Well, I mean, I don't wanna discuss more. So maybe we can skip that again for maybe another topic, time of conversation. But I wanted to say, uh, mention the reasons why I, my husband and I have decided to remain in this area. Starting out with non-work related conveniences that we really cherish. One of them is living about 20 minutes to half an hour without traffic, um, to in proximity to the airport, the nearest international airport. And for reference, there's only two international airports, or yeah, international airports in Costa Rica
Yeah,
that have the most flights coming in. One of them, of course, the biggest one is in San Jose, which is the Central Valley, which we mentioned, in the middle of the country. And in the Guanacaste region where we are, there's
it's
this
actually in
big
Alajuela. You know that?
Alajuela.
Yeah, from Alajuela, so I would love to for that to be clarified. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it's in the
Clarification.
Central Valley.
Yeah, but it's like the metropolitan San Jose greater area, which is similar to many other bigger cities around the world. And in the Liberia International Airport is only about 20 to 30 minutes So that's a great bonus for us. We're also about 40 minutes to driving to the closest big city, which is Liberia. And
Yeah.
that's really an over exaggeration because people think that it's a big city when they've never been here and they purchase property sometimes remotely and we tell them they can go to Liberia for better shopping. I think they expect great things. Meanwhile, to me, it just resembles a small, it's the same as the small city in inland of the Sao Paulo province. No, it's not a province, but it's like the region of San Jose. Sorry, Sao Paulo in Brazil, where I live. It just reminds me of a small city that I lived in a couple of years ago.
A satellite city of Sao
It's
Paulo. Or
yeah, it's like a small city inland, 2 hours inland. So it's the same. There's not much. There's just 5 stores really, but it's more than what you can find here locally. That it's gotten a lot better and the availability of products in town and also in Liberia over the last couple of years. But we're still a long way to go. But a big plus for my husband and I is that there is what most North Americans know as Costco, or here they call it Price Mart.
yeah.
It's the same. It's the same. It's a different name of the same uh, store, and it's right across from the airport. So it's only 20 minutes away from us, and we love having that
Convenient.
that convenience.
Yeah.
And in Coco, maybe I can touch on the differences between various beach towns in this area. Our beach towns are on along the entire coast, basically, of Guanacaste, are small. They are very small. We're talking maybe 10,000 population.
I would say
If
less, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not counting the tourists, or maybe I am on that. Those are some statistics that I've heard. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe in a future conversation we can discuss how many people visit, um, especially in the high season when it gets quite busy.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a small population, and as I mentioned, there's a lack of availability of many products. But we're extremely lucky that here in Coco, they just keep opening up more grocery stores. So we have
Yeah.
maybe four, and there's some small ones here and there as well. And my favorite, and I think maybe your favorite, it's called Alto Mercado, which
Which we're
think of.
not being sponsored by.
Oh, I wish
We
you would
wish.
sponsor us.
Yeah.
Ever since we moved here and we went to Alto Mercado, my dream was always to be able to do most of my groceries there, just because it is extremely overpriced compared
It is.
to
Yeah.
local stores, but it does have a variety. It's maybe like Whole Foods. It's not necessarily organic, but it's just higher. There's more products, diverse products. I think when you go into a regular store, grocery store here in anywhere else, basically, that's also more affordable, you will find what I've noticed is a lot of inexpensive but food and low in nutrition. We're talking pastas, of course, the rice and beans, and I mean that's a staple here, and I think it's very highly nutritious. But outside of rice and beans, the produce sometimes, depending on where you go, can be of like lower quality, and there's just pasta or sauces and things with like MSG and just a lot of additives.
Yeah.
So I find personally that I can go to Alto Mercado and buy a wider selection of food, and sometimes more health conscious
Yeah.
types of food, almond
For
flour,
sure.
and
Yeah.
that you cannot find in a regular grocery store that most Costa Ricans
Yeah, I
visit.
think that yeah, and the fact that there's this story in Coco speaks a lot about the demographic that lives in the area, because it's people that are more curious and willing to pay a little bit more to get access to products that are definitely more as you're saying, like nutritional, and that curate the yeah, the intake. The people that curate their what they are having, what they are intaking, and I don't want to go deep into this, but you were talking about how these couple of years there has been more and more stores, which is true, like grocery stores, and it's interesting because like you are a foreigner, living here, resident, etc. And you are now, yeah, property management, real estate, etc. But people tend to drive conversations about foreigners coming and taking, the land, etc. And for example, most of the grocery stores are from Chinese, and nobody talks about the Chinese strategies on taking and sometimes doing a lot of price war and it's to like reduce and reduce pricing and like yeah, as I said, I don't want to go into details, but how like debating about like Chinese populations, for example, is never on a like there's never a conversation about like why Chinese are taking over the grocery store industry, like whereas there's a lot of conversation about like whether people from North America are taking over the real estate. But yeah, I think that I decided to remain in Coco or in this area. I'm currently living like 15 minutes off Coco, but um, I think that I feel that life just have given like it's just given me a lot of different new ventures and opportunities. As I said before, like I started my company with a business partner. We have this for I think a little bit less than a year, perhaps. At the end, I sold my equity to him, and I started to venture into the creation of this chamber of commerce, which was something that speaks to me, or at that moment was speaking to me more than having a company, but rather serving a more complex demographic, which is business owners. Because as I said, I had this opportunity to study entrepreneurial studies and be more into the back end of the business world in like the creation and um, the functioning of a business from the business perspective, how to make it work, how to make it happen regardless of the industry, but rather like the tools and the structures that you need to have so your venture is successful. So I had the opportunity to serve to this board and create this chamber of commerce and integrate different perspective on how to run businesses in the area. So that was for a period of time, for a little bit more than a year as well. And then I had another invitation to work for the government, which was another venture. So I think that in my case, life has given me different opportunities to keep knowing more about the region, and that, of course, amplified my wealth of knowledge because now I feel that I'm very knowledgeable in many aspects of from starting a business to what's trending, what industries are overserved and what industries are underserved, and how to keep growing in this region, like who's who, etc. Um, so Guanacaste is a wide canvas, and it has been like this for, as I said, like many decades since the people from different parts of the world started to purchase property and become residents in this area. It is less predictable than the Central Valley, the greater metropolitan area, where like starting a business or being in as a competitor in the market is perhaps harder. Here, you could start a business, as you say, like out of. I mean, everybody has different reasons and motives to start a business, but you basically were able to do so, and you've been doing, and now you run a very successful property management business, and you had the opportunity to encounter this yeah, this scenario of creativity and openness to do so. I feel that in my case, I've been exploring this for as well 4 years almost, and I have the opportunity to keep exploring all these facets or these tools that I know that I gained throughout my previous professional experiences, and now I am applying this into Guanacaste, into the region in Coco. seems to be the place to be, like for the proximity to the airport, for the international business, international climate, I would say, to do businesses. Many people, as it's very close to the airport, many people decide to come here first, rather instead of going to other beach towns. And another thing that we will talk in the future is how close it is from the Gulf of Papagayo, where the luxury real estate is like historically located, but now we are seeing more, like in more demonstration of different international brands that are coming out of the Gulf of Papagayo. Like, we're, as I am speaking, I am literally seeing the Waldorf Astoria here. This is in our eye range. Can you see it? Live the building? Yeah, it's just like it's not common to have a Waldorf Astoria just so close, right? And we are like 5 to 10 minutes from where the St. Regis is gonna be opening, and there are so many opportunities because this create like a spilling over effect, because the economy is so abundant and there is this new ventures coming in and new industries that creates, and they need another minor stakeholder. So who's gonna be there, who's gonna run the procurement of, I don't know, like transportation for the staff members, who's gonna run um, the vegetables for the restaurants, right? So there is a lot of this economic value that are around the incoming of these luxury brands and the, you know, big villas. And I think so in general, Guanacaste, it's still yet to be written about. Like, it's a, I feel that we are in the middle of something. Like, Guanacaste is in the middle of something that is bigger than us, and it's a blast to be here.
I feel the same way. I think there's definitely a lot of developments and many more to come. So I I feel like it is the place to be right now, at least for myself, and I'm sure many people who are might watch this video who are curious might decide that it's potentially as well the right place for them. And this is the whole idea of having this conversation.
Yeah.
And to maybe we can wrap up and
Yeah.
just mention that we are the goal of our series is to educate for anyone who's curious or maybe even interested in exploring this area, and uh, to to end with saying that both of us are, as we have called ourselves local experts, and myself and my husband, we focus on real estate developments. That's my husband is sells real estate in the area, and is also project manager for developments. He has experience under his belt, and he is currently participating in a couple of projects, and anything to do with investments. And Santi, his specialty is starting a business and coach and
Yeah.
guide and to do market analysis.
Yeah, yeah, more into understanding the market and the context of what's happening in here. Um, Business creation, business um, concepts, and sort of, yeah, conceptualize investments in the area, because market entry is becoming um, more tailor to the needs of the investor. And as I said, there are different industries and it's a growing population. So my specialty is more into market entry, into um, starting a new business of thin air, how to allocate the money, how to work. If you need to build, like there are multiple people that work more into development, but people sometimes they don't want to build, they want to start a business on a different industry, right? So I do more like into the conceptual conceptualization is the word, like of how to start and what industries, and the market entry, and business growth, business strategy, sort of. Yeah.
Great. So we're gonna include our details
Yeah.
below for you to contact us if you're interested in any of that or getting more information. And you can follow this channel for more videos to come on
Yes.
our discussion. information about the region, its growth, and we're gonna be venturing off into many other topics. So for anyone curious,
Yes, I think that this is the first episode, as we said. We've been learning a lot about like technicalities of it. So we will definitely improve in our series. But I think that more it's very important to as well for me to say that this is a lot of a conversation about Guanacaste and what is happening here. So yes, we have this expertise, but as well, I think that these episodes will be about sharing all this knowledge about the region, and of course if you ever want to come and invest here, as Vero said, and as I know, there are a lot of missing points, and there's a lot of information that is not shared. So we hope to fill this gap with this. So I hope in the future you will see us as a reference for your journey. Okay, so
so much.
bye.